Good evening, you're watching Estuary News. I'm Hugh Riches. In the headlines tonight, a year since the disappearance of missing Hull woman Renata Antchak, plans for a giant Lancaster receive clearance for takeoff, and tackling speeding motorists in North Lincolnshire. Later in tonight's programme, I'll be talking to Fiona Andrews on how rugby is helping dementia patients, and before that, Lia Nici on standing for North East Lincolnshire Council. Today marks a year since Hull woman Renata Antchak disappeared after she dropped her youngest daughter off at school. Despite international appeals for information, there have been no confirmed sightings of Miss Antchak. Humberside police say her disappearance is being treated as a murder inquiry. The force has today reappealed for help in tracing Miss Antchak. The charity Crime Stoppers is also offering a reward of up to £10,000 for information that leads to a conviction. Plans for a giant Lancaster bomber sculpture near Lincoln have been approved. The Bomber County Gateway Trust made an application for the 26-metre structure as a tribute to RAF bomber crews who served in World War II. It'll be mounted on a steel frame to give the impression of flight. Over 30,000 drivers would pass the monument every day on the A46 near Lincoln. North Kesteven District Council granted planning permission yesterday. The Trust said a groundbreaking ceremony will take place next month. A community speed watch group has been set up in Thornton Curtis in North Lincolnshire. The group consists of residents volunteering to track the speeds of passing cars through the village. It was set up after concerns from residents that motorists drive too fast. Residents are being given cameras as part of a 3-week pilot project with training from North Lincolnshire Council and Humberside Police. Drivers caught speeding will be sent a warning by the police. Graham Thomas, one of the volunteers, says he hopes the group will encourage motorists to drive more carefully.
I personally feel that we're in a small village with narrow roads, and as you can see yourself, there are bends that go through the village and cars still come through at quite a speed. I've not been able to say what that speed is, but now having done this training, we're able to see what speed they're actually doing. At about 8 o'clock each morning, we have 4 school buses sat here on the little crossroads in the village, and there isn't anywhere for them to park, and of course children are crossing roads to catch whichever bus they're going to catch, and the cars don't slow down, and dare I say it, neither do the lorries, so it can be quite scary for them in the morning.
They're mature enough to know that Humberside Police simply don't have the resources to be here all of the time, because, you know, compared to the larger urban areas, I guess that it's a smaller problem. So what we were looking for was a different level of intervention. And we'd heard of Community Speed Watch, this idea of getting members of the community trained up to go out on the streets and be a visible presence, a visible deterrent to speeding motorists, and also to collect data on behalf of Humberside Police. So it was very much a drive from the local residents themselves, and it's my role as a ward councillor to try and bring the various partners together to make that drive happen.
Well, obviously we hope that Thornton Curtis will be safer as a result of this through fewer cars speeding through the village, but I also hope it shows a community that the services that should be there to support them are listening to them and doing what they can to empower those communities to look after themselves, rather than services which are being cut all of the time, having to do everything. It's sometimes the case that we can get more done if we just support people and communities to do things for themselves.
Hopefully, if it all goes well and all the analysis prove that it has worked, then it could roll out right across the county, so on a regular basis. So you could see more of this face in the village with his camera.
North Lincolnshire Clinical Commissioning Group wants to hear from patients after it decided to drop its contract with Thames Ambulance Service following repeated failings. Health bosses have launched a survey to find out how the service should be shaped under a new provider. Thames Ambulance Service provides patient transport to thousands of residents in North Lincolnshire, taking them to and from hospital and surgeries. The contract was scrapped last month after consistent complaints about ambulances not turning up. Thames will serve a year's notice until a new company takes over. Drugs, arson attacks and vandalism have made life a misery for people living on a council estate in Hull. Now, several residents living in high-rise flats in Great Thornton Street are fighting back, as our reporter Jack Muscat finds out.
The Great Thornton Street estate in Hull has been plagued by crime and antisocial behaviour. The flats opposite Hull's Royal Infirmary Hospital have become a location for high rates of drug abuse, arson attacks and vandalism at all times of day. I went along to meet some of the residents to find out what's been going on.
We was waking up to find people passed out on landings. We've gone out onto landings to actually witness people taking drugs. And you have, obviously, they've been kind with us and they've been honest with us and they've left on their own accord, which we've been grateful for. But I think it was when we found human faces on the landing which really got to us. It was affecting our health because you breathe it in, you don't really want to go out and put your rubbish down, and it was just getting beyond a joke. So we thought, right, enough's enough. We're pushing it now.
We haven't got no caretakers now. They haven't, like other residents, been cleaning up the block, because we just need to get it all back on track and get a lot more done, get everything cleaned up. And obviously it's just getting a lot worse.
We're paying for all of this. We're paying for cleaners that don't appear. You walk into the block, you smell urine, faeces, human, as well as dogs and anything else.
A group of residents decided enough was enough. They met with police and Hull City Council 2 weeks ago to set up a new neighbourhood network group. I asked one of the group's founders, Abby Ness, what inspired her to act.
We just thought, no, we're not standing down anymore. That's it. We're going to make a stand and stand up for ourselves and stand up for the right to live in a safe environment. We never actually thought about setting up a neighbourhood watch team because we thought it had been against our time, but in the meeting there was a group called Darts who would set up a neighbourhood watch team down Hezza Road, and we never even heard of them until that night. And it was them who inspired us. They actually inspired us to set up the neighbourhood watch team, and we was happy about it.
We're hoping to get it all together and get everything back on track and sort everything out. Like, get the caretakers back and make it more safe to live than just being in a dump.
In a statement, Hull City Council confirmed that a constructive meeting was held with residents with a number of issues being raised. It added that resident safety is a top priority for the council and that options to upgrade the door entry system are being explored. It went on to say that tenant volunteers work with the council to report repairs and recommend improvements. The statement ended by calling for the cooperation of residents in terms of keeping external doors closed and not letting people in who aren't known to them. Time will tell whether this will make a difference to the crime rates here, but antisocial behaviour does appear to be down. For the residents, though, it is a step in the right direction. Jack Muscat, Estuary News.
Local council elections are being held in Hull, Lincoln and North East Lincolnshire on the 3rd of May. Lia Nici is the Conservative candidate for the Scartho ward in Grimsby. That's the North East Lincolnshire Council, and she joins me now. And in the interests of full disclosure, I should also mention that she's the boss here at Estuary TV. So, Lia, I have to be particularly horrible in order to maintain our objectivity.
Well, why change the habits of a lifetime, Hugh?
What topics are the Conservatives campaigning on in North East Lincolnshire?
We're campaigning on things like litter collections, refuse collections, traffic chaos. In particular, as you'll know, the Waltham Toll Bar roundabout changes are causing real problems and residents are not happy. And we're concerned that that in North East Lincolnshire, the council just isn't listening to residents.
You talk about litter and keeping the place tidier and cleaner and all that sort of... All the parties are saying that. What's distinguishing the Conservatives?
Well, we're not in control in the local council, so we can't make final decisions on things. What we're doing is going out to people and saying, if they want things to change here, then they need to change who's in council, and that's why we want to try and fight for a Conservative majority. We haven't been in power in North East Lincolnshire since 2011, so we think we can make some changes. The
big issue that seems to be dominating everything in North East Lincolnshire, to the exclusion of Europe, the Middle East, Donald Trump, is the Toll Bar roundabout. Toll Bar Gate. What's your position?
I think that the traffic light scheme is unnecessary in its current plan. I think it's going to cause more traffic chaos. in the ward that I'm fighting, in particular, Scartho already has difficulties with traffic coming in and out of the Scartho Road, which impacts on people coming to and from Waltham Toll Bar. And so we think that the plans should be changed. You know, it's difficult because obviously 3 Labour councillors voted that it should go ahead, which in itself is an absolute shocking situation. So we will carry on fighting. If the Conservatives take the majority, we'll commit to making sure that we're not going to have traffic lights at Waltham Toll Bar, and we'll do something that the residents want to happen.
What's the position? The Conservative Party also considers individual freedom, and then the state or state organs like a local council takes away as little of what we create in value as possible. That tends to be the Conservative. What's your position on poll tax? It seems to be going up exponentially.
Well, you know, again, we weren't in the majority to vote about the council tax. A proposal
council
was...
tax, I'm sorry, I'm old-fashioned,
It's all right,
aren't
poll
I?
tax, yes. You know, the council tax, there was a proposal put forward that it was increased by, I think, 5%. We fought against it. But unfortunately, because we are not in a majority, we lost that vote. That's something that we'd need to look at. We as opposition, and as myself as not as a councillor at the moment, we don't get full access to all of the details of what council taxpayers' money is being spent on. So we need to look at that and see what we can do, because you're right, we don't want people to be paying unnecessarily for things when we think we can be more efficient.
Very briefly, getting a good response on the doorsteps?
Very good report, yeah, very good.
Enjoying it?
Yes, I am, and it's good to hear what people have got to say and their opinions.
Thank you very much, Leah. Enjoy the campaign. Join me after the break. Jack will bring us a roundup of the latest sporting action, and I'll be talking to Fiona Andrews on how sporting reminiscence with Hull KR is helping dementia patients. Welcome back. You're watching SG News. Still to come tonight, Jack brings us a roundup of all the latest sporting action, and Fiona Andrews tells me how Hull KR is helping dementia patients. A major road improvement scheme for Beverley starts next month. The £1 million project by East Riding Council will resurface a number of roads in the town. They're showing signs of wear. Areas to benefit include North Bar Within, Beckside and the A164 at Leconfield. Work starts on the 8th of May and will take around 12 months to complete. The leader of North Lincolnshire Council is to tackle the 10-mile ironstone walk around Scunthorpe. Councillor Rob Waltham will officially open the new walking route by taking the first steps on Saturday, setting off from Central Park's Nutshell Cafe at 11 a.m. He'll be tackling the walk for charity, raising money for Lindsay Lodge Hospice. Developed by the Local Access Forum, the Ironstone Walk links many of the town's green areas, including Central Park, Greenacre Park and Bottisford Beck. The Ironstone Walk is a precursor to an eventual 30-mile route around Scunthorpe and Bottisford to be called the Ironstone Trail. The University of Hull is to work with the University of York and Teesside University on a £5 million project to develop the bioeconomy in the Yorkshire and Humber region. Bioeconomy uses renewable and biological resources from the land and sea to produce food, materials and energy. The aim is to create greener products for the future, reducing reliance on fossil resources and minimising waste. The project is part of a multi-million pound investment from Research England's Connecting Capability Fund. A group of 16 on-call firefighters have graduated at a passing out event. They'll now join crews throughout Lincolnshire, reinforcing areas that need bigger crews. The new cohort are trained to deal with emergencies, including fires, floods and traffic collisions. On-call firefighters are usually at their normal place of work elsewhere or at home when they receive a pager alert, and then they spring into immediate action to deal with a 999 incident. A dementia charity has been working with Hull KR to support, that's Kingston Rovers, to support people living with dementia and engage in rugby. And Fiona Andrews from Dementia Forward is with me now to tell me more about the project. Fiona, welcome. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for having me, Hugh.
Now, what exactly is going on?
Right, well, I work for a charity, Dementia Forward, and we support people to live better in their community who have the condition of dementia. We're a North Yorkshire charity, so we don't actually run services out of Hull. However, we were approached by Chris Mitchell, who owns a couple of care homes in Hull. He owns Magnolia House in Cottingham and the Manor House in Little Wheaton. And he's very passionate about his residents remaining part of their local community. It's a great ethos because what he wants is for the people who are in his care home to still remain part of the environment that they've always lived in, they've always worked in. So we're very passionate about that as well at Dementia Forward. So we were more than happy to work with him. And so we came to Hull and we wondered where to start. We looked around Hull and we realised that Hull is a big city for sport.
Not half, yeah.
You've got your 2 rugby teams and you've got your football team. So that seemed a very natural place to start. So I contacted them all and asked if they would like to do some dementia-friendly work with us. And Helen Schofield from Hull Kingston Rovers came straight back to me and said, actually, we've just received some money from the Heritage Lottery Fund, so we would love to do some work with a dementia-friendly project.
So it's a perfect combination of circumstances,
Perfect,
really.
yes.
It's one person needing something and another person being able to provide it.
Absolutely, yes.
So what happens? You take these people who are living with dementia and you take them along to a match?
Well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to do that this Sunday. We're going to go to the Hull Kingston Rovers versus Leeds match at the local stadium. I met with Craig Spivey, who is the Heritage Project Coordinator for Hull KR, and we sort of wondered what we should do, and he's a very forward-looking person, so we both decided together that let's take a group of people who are living with dementia out of the care homes, out of Magnolia House and out of the Manor House, and let's take them to a live rugby match. What we found was that people who were living in these care homes were actually watching the rugby matches on TV. It's not for everybody. You know, there's not everybody who's living with dementia who's going to be able to do this. But for the people who can, I think we should support them to be able to do it.
And it's not just, it's not just the game itself, and no doubt there are sort of tribal loyalties that people in Hull will have because It's a very, very divided city in terms of rugby. But it's the whole sort of the ambience, the atmosphere, the noise, the surge of perceptions and sensations that might come back and remind people of times gone by and of happy days gone by.
That's exactly it. You know, although we're going to take a group on Sunday to the rugby match, it's not really just about watching the rugby match. And I know that you say that, you know, there's the divide in the city with the Hull Kingston Rovers and the
very
Hull
serious,
City.
very emotional
They
about
really
it.
do.
It's only a game for you.
No, it's not. It's much more than that, I think. But what we found was that we went into the care homes. We went into the Manor House first, and we did a sport and reminiscence session. This was run by Hull Kingston Rovers Heritage. It's great that they've got money to do this because it's actually bringing something into a place where people normally wouldn't actually have access to this. So they took the sport and reminiscence sessions into the Manor House first and then into Magnolia House, and Craig ran the reminiscence sessions with the residents in there, and it was absolutely great to see.
Isn't it a bit, I'm not a sports fan, but isn't it a bit, if you're sporting, then he kicked the ball that way and then there was another goal and then the referee blew the whistle. It's always exactly the same, isn't it?
Right, what happened was the sessions actually triggered off something that when we're away from talking about rugby, it's exactly like what you say about us going to the rugby game on Sunday. It triggers off something that leads people to sort of reminiscing about different events in their lives, days gone past.
And that reminiscing sort of fires up neurons, I suppose, or sort of fires up parts of the mind that had perhaps been a bit dormant. And
we know that people who are living with dementia can sometimes have problems with their memories. And what we can do is through various means, we can trigger those memories. Sport is a very good way of triggering memories, which we've actually discovered. So when we go to the game on Sunday, it's not just actually about watching the game. It's going to be about arriving at the stadium. It's going to be about listening to the crowd. You know, that will be probably quite reminiscent for some people.
And
It'll
the
be walking.
food and the smells,
Absolutely.
the noise. Dementia is something that affects almost everybody. If it hasn't yet, it will do.
Yeah.
You have some pretty rather terrifying statistics about everybody's likelihood to get it.
Yeah, dementia isn't a natural part of ageing, but obviously the older that you get, the more likelihood that you are going to have dementia. And I think the statistics at the moment are that 1 in 3 of us, when we die, will have the condition of dementia. It's very important, therefore, that we encourage people to live positively and very well with dementia for as long as they possibly can. I think when people think about dementia, what they automatically think about is the end part, the very, very challenging part of dementia. And there is a beginning and there is a middle part of dementia. And just because somebody gets a diagnosis of dementia today, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're any more of a different person than what they were yesterday. And yet society sometimes treats them a little bit differently. We want to change that stigma.
Fiona, thank you. Of course, it's the families as well who are affected. Have an absolutely wonderful day with Hull Kingston Rovers, and well done to them as well. Thanks very much, Fiona. Here's Jack with all the rest of the sports.
We'll start in Rugby League, and both Hull clubs have found out their opponents in the Challenge Cup. In the draw made earlier today, Hull Kingston Rovers will host fellow Super League side Wigan Warriors, while Hull FC will travel to Championship side Featherstone Rovers. Rovers are in for a tough test against the club in Wigan, who have won the famous old competition a record 19 times, most recently in 2013. The Robins booked their place in the sixth round thanks to a convincing win over League One side Oldham. Tim Sheen's side ran home comfortable 32-0 winners on Sunday afternoon. Meanwhile, Hull FC begin their defence of the competition they have won for the past 2 seasons. The tie's a repeat of the infamous 1983 final between the two sides. The Black and Whites went down to a shock 14-12 defeat at Wembley. No doubt a painful memory for all concerned with the club. The ties will be played the week between Thursday the 10th and Sunday the 13th of May. In football, it was a good night for Scunthorpe United yesterday, without them even kicking a ball. Results went in their favour as playoff chasing rivals Plymouth Argyle could only draw with struggling side Rochdale. Another club that's part of the chasing pack, Peterborough United, lost 3-1 at high-flying Shrewsbury Town. Those results leave the Iron in a strong position as they prepare for the final 3 games of the campaign. Nick Dawes' side currently occupy the final playoff position in 6th and have a 2-point cushion over Plymouth, one place below them. United host Argyle next Tuesday in a crucial game at Glanford Park. And that's all from me in the sport. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you very much, Jack. That's all for tonight. If you have a news story or you want to contact us for any reason, then Facebook and Twitter as they appear below me, or email news@estuary.tv, or phone Grimsby 01472 31553, or write to us at Estuary TV, Nuns Corner, Laceby Road, Grimsby, North East Lincolnshire, DN 345BQ. Until tomorrow, if I'm still employed after that first interview, from all of us here, good evening.